Welcome back to the Subs in 15 podcast where, we talk about all kinds of sports in 15-minute segments. And today we're going to have an absolute banger for you all. How are you all doing?
Doing good.
I'm so excited, man. There's so much has happened.
Let's go dancing. That's all I got to say.
Yep.
So much has happened. Not just that, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. So we're going to kick it off. College basketball. We're into March Madness. Conference tournaments are going crazy. Zach, everybody that's won so far, who's your favorite?
There's a lot of good teams. OVC, though, that was a matchup. Murray State, Morehead State. That was fun. That was a fun game there. Murray picking up the dub. I called it all along. I knew they were going to win that. What did you guys think about that matchup?
I mean, yeah, it was fun. It was fun to watch. I mean, we talked about that matchup for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, going back weeks when we had watched the regular season finale between those two teams, watching Murray sweep. And it was fun. Like, you could see Janai Broome just played out of his mind. Murray State's one of the top defensive teams in the nation. They're top 50, if I remember correctly, maybe higher. And Janai Broome made them look like they had a lot of issues. Those cracks were apparent, and he took advantage of it. Obviously, Murray State's still very good basketball. So, yeah, it was just fun.
My thing with Murray, okay, they're currently a projected 7 seed in the tournament, which is mind-boggling to me, as they're 19th in the nation, won their conference tournament, and you're still a 7 seed. But when you look at the flip side of that, 25 of their 30 wins are quad 4, quad 3 wins.
Yeah, that was
So
what
I think that's where they hurt, right? When you only have 2 quad 1 wins,
I feel
yes,
like
you're winning games, but not against good teams.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say against not good teams. I think it's hard to gauge, especially in this era of quads, right? Like we've ranked these teams in okay, have you won this game in this place against that person? So I mean, I don't think it's their fault because they're leaving the OVC for the Missouri Valley, as we've covered before, which was also a very tough. We'll talk about who won that conference in just a second, but I don't know, I do think it is criminal that they're 7 because they're undefeated in conference, haven't lost a game since December. They're one of those teams that they're deep. They play a fun brand of basketball, very well coached. And they look like a team that if they were in one of those Power Fives, they could at least compete. I'm not going to say that they're going to run the Big Ten because that's not happening. But if they were in one of those conferences, I truly feel like Murray State would still be in the mix. So I don't know. You look at who they lost to. I mean, they got Auburn. And who was the other team they lost?
East Tennessee.
East Tennessee State. That is a bad loss. So that if you wanted to use that, I could understand why they lost to East Tennessee State. That was so early in the year, and their only other losses against Auburn. And we've seen what Auburn's been this year. So I don't think you can necessarily in their position. Yes, if this was a team of a higher caliber and a tougher conference, yeah, I'd be only 2 quadrant 1. Whoa! But where they have a lack of quadrant 1, when was the last time they played a quad 1 team? Because I promise you, there is not a quad 1 team in the OVC.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just rough to have to deal with that kind of schedule. But moving forward, the Missouri Valley, the Loyola Chicago Ramblers are back again.
They don't go away.
They really don't.
Yep.
I mean, Sister Jean is praying her way to a title.
She is.
Doing God's work.
Yeah.
Jesus is with her.
Second consecutive tournament appearance, though. I mean, they're consistent.
You know what makes this run even more special, though? Sorry, I have my little notebook of facts for those wondering why I keep looking down here. I'm trying to hide it, but I guess it's not very well. I'm like, Anyway, this is not only their second straight appearance, but they've also gone through a coaching change. I can't remember the name. I'm blanking the name of the coach that left. He's at Oklahoma now. He's done all right there. But Drew Valentine is now their current head coach. The man is 30. This is his first year. Do you know how rare it is to have a 30-year-old head coach? We are seeing kind of an influx of younger coaches coming in, but when we say younger, we mean 35. This guy is 30. He's only been an assistant, I think, for the past 4 years before that. He is the younger brother of Denzel Valentine, that played at Michigan State. So with me, it's kind of hard to gauge because they went 25-7. They lost 5 games in a conference that went 18-27 in quads 1 and 2. So, when you gauge it like that, the Missouri Valley is a lot tougher than, we were just talking about the Ohio Valley. They have a lot more D1 opportunities. I mean, quad 1, quad 2. And that conference did, poorly. They still won 18 games. But when you look at who they lost to, their 5 losses all came to teams that were in the top 4 of the Missouri Valley. Now, that is a tough conference, but when you look at a team like that in their first year with a young head coach, yes, they have that talent that came back, but also, like, how far do you think they can go with this young coach?
I mean, when you got Sister Jean on your side, I think the sky's the limit,
Yeah,
right?
for real.
I mean, they made that unreal run a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah, it's Final Four.
I mean, nobody expected him to be there, but that was also kind of a crazy year, I think they've obviously been here. They've done this now. I mean, this is their second consecutive appearance.
That is the flip side to Drew Valentine, is that he was an assistant for 4 years, like, during all this. So he is experienced, but he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, experienced in that he's been here with this team, so he knows what to expect here, but not as the head guy.
Yeah.
They are ranked 19th in opponents' points per game. They only allow 61 points, which is ridiculous
That's pretty crazy.
pretty good.
Yeah.
for a team in the non-Power 6 or Power 5, whatever it is in college basketball. One of those two.
Yeah, they've been doing pretty good. I mean, they hold Drake to 58 points in their championship game.
And
So,
Drake's a tough team.
Drake's a good team, yeah. So that was a good performance by them. But it'll be cool to see Murray, though, come up and face them now. That's going to
Dude.
be the new
I want to see that.
rivalry
Loyola
game
and
for 'em.
Murray.
Yep.
Do you know how much fun that would be just for basketball in general? Like a non-Power 6, like, you know what I'm saying? Like these two schools that have been there, done that, the kind of the cream of the crop of your mid-level conferences. That'd be awesome. I'd pay to see that one. Not really NCAA, don't make me pay.
And we had some other teams making their first ever appearance. We got the Longwood Lancers out of the Big South. I mean,
Never even heard of them.
They're just nobody really knows who they are. Could they make a run? Could they make an upset? We don't really know. And then we have the Bryant Bulldogs out of where are they coming from?
NEC.
The NEC. Is that the
Northeastern
The
Conference.
Northeastern Conference. Yeah. I mean, that was a fun game.
I said, what for Bryant?
For Bryant, yeah. For Wagner, I'm sorry. The fans started fighting the players. I don't really know how that happens, but
It doesn't really matter what happened in the game because that's the only thing that I saw that came out of it.
well, exactly. I mean, nobody really cares about the game at this point, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, they looked like they were in like a high school gymnasium, right?
don't disrespect Bryant.
I'm
like that.
disrespecting them,
What's wrong
okay?
with you?
Look, if you're gonna host a tournament, you have to have a good enough gymnasium to where you can space out the fans from the players. I mean, it looked like a high school gymnasium where the fans were literally 2 feet behind the players.
Cameron Indoor with Duke. I mean, that gym's small, and literally, like, if you wanted to be on
Yes,
press
but,
row,
like,
like you have to climb in with
I
with
understand,
right
but,
behind you.
the people at Duke have been there. They know they're not supposed to fight.
Oh
the
my
players.
gosh,
This is Brian's first ever tournament appearance. They don't know what they're doing.
they don't know how to act, man. Let them
Exactly.
celebrate. Let them have fun.
Well, you know what? And then
Not really. Don't
their
fight
AD was like, "Hey, we're gonna let Wagner leave before we storm the court," and then that just didn't happen. They stormed the court immediately. Yeah, so, I mean, that's just a mess. But it's ridiculous. But moving on, Wright State beats Northern Kentucky in a heartbreaker for Northern Kentucky. I mean, they were leading for the majority of the game and then just kind of collapsed.
Gave it away at the end there.
Yeah, I mean, it was sad. What'd you see, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, Wright State's always been a team, though, in that conference that has been a competition for NKU.
Oh, yeah.
Always been. It's always like in baseball, you name the sport, they're always a good rivalry there. But Northern, tough loss for them by a point. Like, it's tough for them. I wish they could go up to a different conference, too. I would love to see NKU, like, in the A-Sun or
That would be
some
fun.
other bigger conference like
Yeah.
that to play more schools in Kentucky. That would be really cool to see.
Can you imagine a Northern and Bellarmine game?
Oh,
That'd be
awesome.
so much fun.
Yep.
Like, talk about like hype up for the state.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Well, just look a couple years ago, or probably heck, it's been on 3 or 4 years now. Nick Mayo, buzzer beater against NKU here, like just that rivalry there, that team, and that would be so cool though.
You know, it'll look real good for us here at EKU because we beat Northern earlier this year in overtime. So
Yep.
that would have been cool if NKU could pull it
Speaking of Bellarmine,
off. Oh
Poor
my
Bellarmine.
gosh, I don't even
poor
want to get
Bellarmine.
started.
Yep.
I mean, I get it. There's the whole transition thing, but like,
What kind of rule is that?
that's the
though?
worst
it,
rule
yeah.
that I think the NCAA has ever
Like,
made.
I kind of get it because it's like, okay, we don't want teams jumping up just to say that they jumped up so they can get postseason money, right? But here's the thing: if you jump up and you go to that talent level, in my mind, there's no like very rarely are teams that jump from D2 to D1 are they ever going to be able to make the postseason anyway? You know what I
Especially in
mean?
their first year.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this is their second, I think. But
Well,
like,
yeah.
but the point still stands. Like that, I feel like that really shows the brass of that program. Like that coach has been there for a long time.
Yep,
They've
Scott Davenport. Yeah,
yes,
he's
Coach
awesome.
Davenport. I couldn't think of his name. I'm happy you caught me on that. But Davenport's a great coach. They have a great history. They literally the reason they moved up to D1 was because they won their D2 championship. They were the D2 defending champions in their first year as in the A-Sun last year, which is ridiculous. And then they go out and win the A-Sun tournament the year after. So like in my mind, just let them in. Like, and then on top of that, not only okay, fine, you want to follow the rule, but you give it. I guess it makes sense. You give it to Jacksonville State because they won the regular season. But you don't give it to the team that beat them and was the runner-up in the ASUN tournament, like Jacksonville University, who also won 21 games. I don't know how that slides. Like that's just to me that doesn't reward postseason play. Like I get you want to reward regular season, but at the end of the day, what's more important?
Tournament.
Yeah,
Whatever happens in the tournament.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just
I want to know who made that call. I want to
it's
yell. At
bad.
him. Yeah, I want to be like, what do you do? Why'd you do that?
Yeah,
You know, and we've still got many other conference tournaments going on. You know, are there any others that you all are waiting to see who comes out of there? You know, like this specific tournament or.
We obviously have talked a lot about the Power Six, and it's going to be really interesting. The Big Ten, I think, is one of the most entertaining, just because they've got so many teams on the bubble, like Michigan, Indiana. It's going to be funny. Those two actually play each other in their first round of the Big Ten tournament, so that'll be really fun. I'd kind of like to see Mike Woodson and Indiana do it. I want to see them get into the tournament just because they're not supposed to. Whereas Michigan, they had all that talent and they've been disappointing. Indiana's had a rough go of it the last 5 years. So I would personally, that's kind of where I'm at, the Big Ten, but specifically the Indiana-Michigan matchup. I just think there's so much fun storyline right there.
be a good one. Another one I'm looking at is ACC tournament. Louisville picked up a win in the first. I couldn't believe
What?
it. Shocking,
No
breaking
way.
news. 84-74 against Georgia Tech. When I saw that score last night on Twitter, I was like, no, that can't be right. It has to be a typo. Has to be. Got to win. But Georgia Tech is the 14th seed in the tournament. We're the 11th seed. So I guess
Do you think they go any farther or no?
probably not.
Probably not.
We got lucky to win that one.
No.
The way the season's been going, the amount of losses they have, I don't see them going much farther. But it's good. He's got to win.
I do want to round back to Louisville. I want to see how much time we got. We got 3 minutes here. But before we finish, because I want to ask about that coaching search and see how you gauge this, okay? But first, I want to go back to conference winnings, right? The Delaware Blue Hens won the CAA, their sixth tournament, first since 2014. Good for them. Not watched a single one of their games. Have no idea how that's
No
going to
idea
look.
either.
Good luck to them. I hope they go far so I can say, I told you so, but I'm having it here now. I have no idea. My other favorite teams, we talked about Murray, we talked about Loyola. There's a third team in the non-Power 5 kind of tucked away up in north central of the United States. The South Dakota Jackrabbits, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'd tell you, they're one of the most surprising teams, I think, in terms of if you haven't really been paying attention to anything, not SEC, Big Ten, ACC. They average 86 points a game, which is second in the nation, only behind Gonzaga. Okay? Defensively, they are awful. I'm just going to put that out there. They're ranked 282nd out of 350 teams. They let up
Way to build them up to knock them down.
No. Listen, I want to get the bad out of the way, okay? But they are on a 21-game win streak. I'm pretty sure they're undefeated in conference play. And their best players, for instance, here, I'm going to pull this up real quick.
Douglas Wilson.
Douglas Wilson, yeah, that's on paper, that really is. But, for instance, I feel like their best player is, his name is Baylor Shearman. He's a 6'6" guard who leads that team in rebounds, assists, steals. He gets 8 rebounds a game, almost 5 assists a game, and 1.5 steals a game. This guy's ridiculous. He averages just he averages 0.3 points less than Wilson. I just feel like they're going to be so much fun to watch. That duo, that combo of stardom between Douglas and Shearman. The only issue, like I said, they don't really have a lot of height. Their biggest guy comes off the bench. He's 6'8", and he averages 0.6 of a block. So, defensively, I think they're really, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. But they score so much points. We're talking about these matchups. I would love to see them go against one of the tougher defensive teams like a Loyola. I'd love to see how they handle the defensive pressure. Because, obviously, they're not going to be able to, stop a team with height. What about another team that doesn't really have a lot of size? They just are fun to watch. They look like a team that could really go far if they get everything together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's all about the matchups, right?
Exactly.
You just gotta hope that you get your right matchup. Because, I mean, if you go up against a team that is hard countering exactly what you do, like there's not much you can really, I guess, do to the point of like if you're a defensive minded team and you go up against an insane 3-point shooting team,
That's
you're
the
just
other
kind
thing.
of screwed, right?
They shoot as a team 45%. I'm looking at this right now. Douglas Wilson shoots 40% from the 3-point arc. Shearman shoots 47.
That's
This team's ridiculous. They got 2 guys off the bench that shoot 50.
Dang.
They're just straight flamethrowers. Like that's what I'm saying. Like this is a team. Like great offense always beats great defense. This is a team that if they get hot, it doesn't matter their size, they're gonna beat
upset.
you. Yeah, I'd love to see their seeding. I'd love to see who they match up against because that and Murray State are the 2 teams that I'm interested to see. Murray State's on the other side of that though. Murray State's got a great defense, and they got some size. But like, I love this.
I will say the one thing, it's hard for like these teams, that, as our timer goes off, it's hard for these conference teams that win their title, right? They're a conference title, but they get like a 14 or a 15, 16 seed where that's like you're going up against the best of the best immediately. So, but that's all we have for this segment. Next, we're moving on to, is it the
NFL
NFL?
next.
Oh, that's a great one. Moving on to the NFL, a lot of stuff went down yesterday. I mean, quite really probably one of the biggest days this offseason is going to get, right? Ryan, what's your take on what happened?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, the guy stayed. I really thought he was gonna like my initial thought I think on the show was that he was gonna stay, and then between now then and now, or yesterday I should say, I actually thought he was gonna leave. Like I had the thought like why would he stay? Because it's cold and he's old and he might want to retire in a place that will actually help him and be warm.
I mean, yes, like being from SoCal, I could see why the cold might get to him, but he's been there for 17
Oh, I know,
years.
but like he's 30, 7, 8. He's
He's
probably like,
38.
I'm tired of the cold. But no, this guy decided I am staying here for life.
And it was, it broke yesterday that he signed a 4-year, $200 million contract, and then he kind of walked back on it. He said, yes, I'm in Green Bay, but contract's not finalized. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Wasn't it because he wanted to like ensure that there was money enough to keep other players around him?
I think so.
Get
Because
talent too.
Devonta Adams got franchise tagged yesterday as well. So, keeping that duo there, I think that might be the only reason he stayed. Is because they're like, okay, we'll keep Devonta Adams.
Yeah, and he'd taken the money bump so that they can sign him to a long term. That makes a lot of sense. Speaking of franchise tag, you know who else got franchise tagged either yesterday or the day before? Jesse Bates. Now listen, we've done so much good. I'm saying we. I will do it. We've done so much good for so long now. Okay? If Mike Brown messes this up, I'm going to throw something. A brick, primarily. How do you not extend the guy?
Yeah.
He's silently one of the best safeties in the league. He's young. He's a core piece of your defense that led you to the Super Bowl, right? Obviously, the offense did what they did, but the defense was what made it, right? You don't stop Patrick Mahomes, we don't go to the Super Bowl. We stop Patrick Mahomes, the defense gets all the credit. Specifically, Jesse Bates, who had a pick in both the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game, right? I'm pretty sure. Correct?
I think so. Yeah.
I know Von Bell had one in the AFC. I don't remember if Jesse had one. I think he did. But the point still stands. The whole fan base, like everywhere, is like, re-sign Jesse Bates. And Mike Brown's like, best I can do is franchise. Dude, we're going to lose him. Like this man, like before he was franchised, he erased everything Bengals from his socials, which we know now is a death sentence. Like if a player removes the team, it's, the team's done. So like, that's my rant. There it is. They were, I don't know if it was in the show, but before we started recording, they were like, I feel like Ryan's got a lot to say. And I do, okay?
You did, yeah. But another one, you're talking about Aaron Rodgers too. If he gets that $200 million, that's the highest paid player ever. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
$50 million a year.
That's a lot. Of money.
That's a lot of money.
Too much money for a person.
42-year-old at the end of it.
I'm pretty sure that's what wasn't that what Josh Allen was asking for?
Yeah, but but it makes sense for Josh Allen though, because Josh Allen's what, 25?
Yeah, he's
Like,
young.
He will
Younger.
still have
Yeah.
like another 4 or 5 year contract waiting for him after that. And the Bills, you best believe, are willing to pay that. Like they have to be, right?
Oh yeah,
Like theoretically. I mean, yeah. Sorry, I'll stop talking.
a lot of money. Next one though, the Seahawks, Russell Wilson. We talked about it last week. We talked about Denver. It happened. Going to the Broncos. What do you think about that, Derek?
I mean, we said we thought he might go to Pittsburgh, which I've got a dark horse for Pittsburgh. All right, I'll bring it up a little bit later. But Seattle gets Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick.
Oh, yeah.
In my mind, Denver got absolutely screwed.
Okay. Yeah. Seattle
Like,
pulled a Sam Presti with Oklahoma City.
I mean,
in the NBA.
Yes, you get Russell Wilson. You know, he's one of why am I blanking here? He's won the playoffs, right? Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know why
I
lost.
So you blanked, and when you blanked, I blanked too. I was like, what's he talking about?
He's won a Super Bowl. You know, they also get a 4th-round pick. But, man, you gave up so much to get arguably not a top 10 quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Your window is now significantly smaller. Like, granted, it's open. That window's wide open. I mean, as wide open as it's going to get in the AFC West. But, like, whatever window you were hoping to have with him is now maybe if it was 8 years, it's now 4, because they gave up so much in that talent that they would have had they not given up that much. What I'm shocked about, we talked about this before, who's to blame? Who do you choose, Pete Carroll or Russ? They chose Pete Carroll. That's shocking to me. The guy is like, I think he's close to 70, if not already 70. He's not going to be around in 5 years, at least the thought, you know? And you choose Pete Carroll to head that rebuild. That's wild. I just can't, I can't believe that. And before we continue, Gage getting a shout out, director. I didn't set a timer. How far are we? 5 minutes. We're at 5 minutes. Okay, 10-minute timer.
Yeah,
and now I'll jump back to you guys.
Yeah, I think if they would have kept Noah Fant, because as you saw in Seattle, Russ's kind of check down guy was his tight ends. You know, if there wasn't anything, the play's a bust, let's go to the tight end, get us a couple yards. Noah Fant was probably definitely like top 10 tight end in the league, could have been top 5, you know. So I think if I'm DK Metcalf, I walk into that front office and I say, okay, who's my quarterback? Because clearly it's not going to be Drew Lock.
I mean,
if it's Drew Lock, you know, chalk the season.
Yeah.
Let's wait for the draft.
Right now, I think if they still have Geno, that's their quarterback situation.
Yeah,
It's
but
Geno
even-
Smith or Drew Lock.
Even with Geno,
still not
DK
good.
got so upset because Geno didn't target him. He went primarily to Tyler Lockett.
I will say though, Drew's a lot more. He's got a stronger arm, and DK is one of those just send him on an out route and throw the ball deep because he's so big and he's so good at like high pointing a ball that he could catch it. Right? He's so strong. So, I mean, to play devil's advocate here, who's to say that Drew Lock's not gonna be the opposite and only throw to DK? You know, like, and they obviously chose Pete Carroll for a reason. So maybe that coaching situation will change Drew Lock up a little bit. Do you want to at least see Drew Lock at all? That's my question. Like, do we give him a chance or not we, but them?
You gotta give him a chance.
Yeah, you give him a chance, but also he had his chance in Denver, right? I mean, they've kind of played like, you know, revolving door with quarterbacks kind of since Peyton retired.
But the coaching situation is different. Like,
Yeah,
I
understand, but like,
I personally, like, I don't care about Drew Lock. I'm not a, like what I saw, he's got a strong arm. He's a fun personality. Like he's a guy that, like, I don't really care one way or the other. Like, if he's, like, he could be a really good backup for a long time, right? But he's still young. He's still got talent. So personally, I would want to see, like, I'm very curious what a Drew Lock-led offense would look like in Seattle under Pete Carroll, because he doesn't have the same running ability. Like, what will Pete Carroll do to change that offense to allow Drew Lock to flourish? That's my curiosity. But looking at Denver, so we're talking about weapons around Russ.
he's got, I think, arguably top 3 wide receiver cores.
Oh, yeah. The receiver core in Denver is nuts.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutherland. I mean,
He's fine. Like, and that line's
plenty.
good.
oh yeah.
But my question, so you talked about the tight end, who's going to be tight end? Because obviously, as you said, the most targeted player in Seattle under Russ was tight ends. Who's going to be now? Well, my question now is, what will Melvin Gordon look like next year? Because, I mean, he looked well this year, but running backs, they don't have the same shelf life. You know, like you only take so many hits. And where will this regression start? Because if this is the Melvin Gordon we saw last year, Denver's going to be in the Super Bowl conversation the entire year, barring injury. But if Melvin Gordon takes a step back, there's no tight end in place for Russ to kind of be Russ. I don't really see them going anywhere but stalling in the same place they are now, especially in that tough West.
Do you see, though, Denver maybe going for a tight end in the draft? Would that be something they can get a rookie in there?
Well, my question is now,
That could
when's
be-
their first draft pick?
Not for a while.
That's
for-
what I'm
yeah.
saying.
They
'Cause, like,
just gave up everybody.
that's my question is because like now that they traded, like yes, if they have a whatever pick, but like if they don't get a pick till the fourth round, like
Won't be anything.
just
too
depends
good.
on who's around, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and my thing is like Seattle trades away Russ, right? And we were talking about how the AFC is so much more stacked than the NFC, especially at quarterback, right? The AFC West now has 4. I'm putting Justin Herbert in like that eventually going to be Hall of Fame status because I think he's one of the best upcoming rookies along with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and I'm happy you didn't disrespect Derek Carr because that man silently has led the
Oh,
Raiders
yeah.
to a lot.
I think like the AFC West has 4. I'm going to say it like 4 of the top 15 quarterbacks. I think.
I don't think you're wrong.
I mean, like, you know, and then when you look at the NFC side, you have Rodgers, Stafford, possibly Kyler, even though he wants $80 million a year. I saw,
Yeah.
which is like that's just
At
absurd.
least for 1 year, he's going to be in Arizona.
I think so, but like, I mean, he still kind of falls off, right? And then after that, who's next? Who's your 4 and 5 in that top 5 of the NFC?
I don't know. That's tough.
Kirk Cousins,
I mean, Dak.
Dak.
Yeah, I would
Dak and Kirk Cousins
easily
round out
throw
the 5.
Dak. I would throw Dak up there easily. I don't. Oh gosh, you said it, and now I'm blanking because Tommy Boy retired. Did you hear what he said in his recent interview? Changing gears a little bit. He had it down to the week how long he'd been retired. That man's coming back. You can't tell me he's not. You know what I mean?
I mean, maybe a good year without him getting drilled is like what he needs, and then he'll come back and win.
Comes back, wins MVP
wins another bowl.
as a 46-year-old. That'd be ridiculous.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but I know this was going to be a callback, but I did look it up earlier and then I forgot and looked down and just saw it. The Broncos from the Rams have the 64th pick, so late second round.
Okay, so you're hoping for a tight end there,
You
right?
could get one there.
Theoretically,
Yeah.
like it just really depends on who's around.
Yeah.
This could be the draft of tight ends where they all go in the first,
True.
because it's not quarterbacks. I promise you.
You know, and last week we talked a lot about the Steelers, right? They need a quarterback. My sleeper pick, because they've shown a lot of interest, Deshaun Watson. They almost made a deal yesterday, you know, from sources.
Yeah.
They're waiting until Friday to where they get more legal clarity on what his situation is. Zach, what do you think about Deshaun Watson in Pittsburgh?
I like that. He's a mobile quarterback. He can throw the ball. I could see that happening. He's that kind of. He's been in the league for a little while now. You know, he's not just a fresh young kid out of college. I can see that happening. What about you, Ryan?
As we've said before with this whole Deshaun and Trey, like if it works, great for Pittsburgh because they get a guy that not only does Tomlin want mobile, but he's also arguably another top 15 quarterback, which makes the AFC North just that much more difficult. But also, as I've said before, I would be worried about what they're giving up because as a team, they're already kind of spotty. They've got a lot of talent in a lot of areas, but the only way you get Deshaun is if you've got to give up some of that talent. And the places where they need talent needs it desperately. So if you get worse in other positions just to get, you know, I don't feel like you improve. I feel like yes, you have a better shot, but I don't know. Like I actually was looking the other day, and a name that's been popping up in a lot of places is Mitch Trubisky. Maybe that's a guy a tweener guy that they can throw in there for a year or two, like if they wanted to. Like he's a guy that can easily play the Big Ben role for a year, you know, until they get what they want.
I've heard Seattle's looking at Mitch Trubisky, though.
I've heard a lot of places are looking at Mitch, which is shocking.
Yeah, it's surprising me. Like his Bear
he didn't do
Bear
good at
tenure
the
was not
Bears,
the best. But Deshaun is also, like, I'm pretty sure it might be on record now. He wants to play with Brian Flores. He wants to play under Brian Flores. Now, Brian Flores has to get a coaching job, obviously.
Well, he already did.
Oh, where's he at?
Pittsburgh. He's the defensive coordinator or defensive specialist in Pittsburgh.
Deshaun's
Makes
going to
sense now,
Pittsburgh.
yeah.
I'm making it right now. Deshaun will end up in Pittsburgh.
You know what's funny about that? Is this guy, Deshaun's like, I want to play under Brian. Brian Flores is a defensive coach. I mean, like it
That's
works. Like,
kinda, yeah.
like you know what I mean? Like I get it. Like that's your boy, and you want to play for him. But like even if he goes to Pittsburgh, you're not going to see him on the field. Like he's the last person's going to be talking to you is the special assistant to the defense. Like, I once again, I want that to happen. Brian Flores should have gotten a job. We won't get into all that debacle, but he should have a head job. He should still be in Miami. That actually really agitates me because he's a great coach. But now he's in Pittsburgh, which annoys me even more because it's Pittsburgh. It's sad days here. Jesse Bates and Pittsburgh.
We'll get over it, but
No, I will not.
Listen, I'll tell you right now, the Bengals will be back in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
yeah.
will
Well,
be.
that's the prayer.
Well, I mean,
Eventually, maybe.
unless Pittsburgh figures out their quarterback situation, I don't see Baltimore or Cleveland taking that up from Joey B. Right? Like
Definitely not Cleveland.
like
Yeah.
the Bengals.
No, Cleveland's not going anywhere.
The Bengals aren't losing anybody for the most part, right?
Yeah, my main concern is the Ravens. Because if Pittsburgh doesn't bring in Deshaun, right? They stay the way they are. They bring in a Mitch Trubisky, or they roll the dice with the quarterbacks on deck. They're obviously going to be bottom 2, maybe bottom if here whatever happens. But Tyrann Mathieu apparently has had interest in Baltimore, and if Baltimore gets help defensively more, and Lamar stays healthy, their offense has always been great. The offensive coordinator and Baltimore.
Well, their defense
is
last year
phenomenal.
was really good too until they got hurt.
That's what I'm saying. Like if they stay healthy, Baltimore's a team that's scary, and if they do nothing but improve, there's no telling what they could do. Genuinely.
I agree. Yep. I mean, Lamar Jackson's he'll be a Hall of Famer for sure.
20
Lamar
seconds.
Jackson. So, yeah. I mean, let's talk real quick though. Calvin Ridley suspended for betting on games. Some big news that broke. Even though it was like $1,500 that he betted on for a
Here's
few
the thing.
games.
He bet on his own team.
Yeah.
$1,500 to a professional
That's
athlete
pocket change for
is
him.
nothing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Pocket change and a year's worth of salary. Like you know what I mean? Like he spent that, and now the buzzer went off. By the way, I don't know if you heard it. I know they heard it. But he bet on his own team. It's a Pete Rose situation. The guy
Come
bet on
on,
his
it's-
own team to win. Bet $1,500, which as you said is pocket change. Like my big gripe with this, and then we're done. We've seen guys beat people, commit domestic violence, get suspended for 2 or 3 games, and then come back. Nothing happens. This guy bets on his own team to win, who was doing awful. Like the guy's not even playing for them.
Yeah.
The guy is out with mental health issues. Not even on the field, bets on his own team to win and gets suspended a whole season. Tell me that's not
crazy.
a crime.
It's crazy.
And that's it. That's for this segment. All right. We're moving on to the MLB. I don't even have to say the joke anymore. I mean, it's true. I don't know anything about baseball. So I throw it to the people that do. Zach and Derek, what's going on?
Lockout continues.
yeah, man. Like at this point, it's getting bad. Like we don't know if we're gonna have a season. They've already canceled 91 games in total. Across,
91.
across like all
Across all
teams.
the
No, yeah, I know, but
But,
that's
like, yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah, 91. That's
That's huge. How many series is that? Like 4?
no. I think it's 2.
Just 2?
Yeah, I think it's just 2.
Still though, 91 games is an astronomical number. I can only imagine the economic hit
Well,
that that's doing.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the thing. Like they're where they're so at a lock is the degrees of main economics, right? Like they want a luxury tax, arbitration,
Yes.
and like a minimum salary.
It's pre-arbitration, so I kind of roughly know what arbitration is.
It's like the bonus. Like you make a playoff season bonus.
Arbitration, from what I understood, wasn't that like it obviously has to do with money, but it's like if you're a rookie between the years, or not a rookie, but like on your first few contracts between years 3 and 5, like you can dispute and have a lawyer present and argue like money, like your contract, right? So what is pre-arbitration? Is that like that, but for your first few years?
I don't
Oh.
know. I'm not sure.
What guys are you?
Listen, like
What baseball guys am I talking to?
Legal
here?
talk.
yeah, man. Like I don't understand arbitration. Like that's
Aren't you a criminal justice man? Legal talk. I don't know anything about that.
Man, but like the owners in the union are like, last I read, they're like 15 million apart on like minimum salary, which I think the union wants it to be like 20 million by next year, and I think currently it sits at like, I think the minimum salary was like 575,000. So like, we're way off somewhere. I don't know what's happening, but like, I'm not sure if that's like, for stars or whatever, or maybe that might be like a team is like 20 million. But I did see like for a rookie contract, it was 575,000 is what we was like the max, I think. But I think the player union is trying to get it up to like 750, which obviously, you pay these younger guys more, they don't have to deal with the economic struggles, right, that we've been talking about for so long with like the minor leaguers. I think they're trying to get a raise for them as well. I think it's like
$26,000.
Well, not like the last number I saw was like 66,000.
No, I know. I
was
was
like
yeah.
the minimum.
I remember that they make $26,000. I actually also looked up arbitration. So it essentially is like it's all about service time, like kind of what I was describing. So it's like if you're a player who's played, if you're between 1 and 6 years, that team has like contract rights to you. So you sign with them your first 6 seasons. Whatever they want to pay you is what they want to pay you, as long as you agree to it, right? Like essentially, you have, I don't want to say little say, but you don't get as much sway. If they want to pay you a certain amount, they're probably going to pay you that amount. But if you've worked more than those days or more than that 6 years is what it's, so it's like service time in days and years and contract, whatever. But if you've worked more than that, then you can negotiate and you can like have like this whole legal process. And then pre-arbitration is for players between 1 and 3 years. So that's nerd moment, I guess. I don't know. I was genuinely curious because I know I've had it explained to me a couple times, and it makes sense why this is a big deal, like why this is debated.
Yeah, they got a lot of work to do. I mean, they spent 17 hours though this past week talking about it, and they didn't finish till 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning.
That's better than the 10 minutes they spent like the week
Better
before.
than 10 minutes, it is, but they're still trying to get that. Union's requesting $238 million overall. And then, of course, baseball, they're saying $228 million. So they're about $10 million off right now. But
Isn't that
it's still
closer
a
to what it has
problem.
been?
A little bit, but
I
they're
think
still
we're getting
struggling.
closer, but like it was like I was saying, somebody's got to give, right? Like you can't just say here's best final offer, and then if they came back and said no, it's like, well, what do we do now? They said no to our offer. We can't, like we're just lost, right? But like Randy Levine, the president of the Yankees, came out and was like, man, this is just bad for everybody. Like the players, the owners, and like the union are all at fault. Like it's nobody's own fault, which I actually like him taking that stance of like, it's not just the players being greedy. Like, the owners are also being greedy. Like it's not just, one side that's at fault. He's kind of being like, both sides need to give a little bit. Right. Like, especially with like, everything that's going on. Like he said, everything in the world, like this is making us just look so bad. Right. Because
Oh, it looks awful.
like the world's not doing the best place right now, and then he's like, we're sitting over here arguing over $5 million.
Yeah, no, it looks really
In
bad.
the grand scheme, like $5 million is not going to be that much to these guys.
Gage, you're going to have to save us again. Where are we at? Okay.
530.
Now let's talk about too, because of the lockout, players are now getting extra jobs on the side. What do you think about that? Swanson and Jock Peterson got jobs at Papa John's.
Listen, this is one of the best things I've ever seen, right? Like, I mean, these guys just won the World Series in
Braves,
October,
yep.
right? Like, so they've probably got enough money to where they
yeah.
don't need this
They
job.
don't need it, but it's just
But like, it also proves, right? They're like, hey, we don't really need the MLB. Like, we can go be fine elsewhere. So it's more of, I think it's more of them showing the MLB. It's like, you need us more than we need you. But also, I think if this lockout continues and more players tend to do this that like don't necessarily need the job, they might get replaced. It's like, well, if you want to show us up, all right, we'll kick you to the curb. Like, we're not going to take this backlash, right?
yeah.
Ryan, you got anything to add here?
Brother, I am as lost. I'm listening and I am paying attention, but like that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, on the flip side of that, like these players are like, I'm doing this to prove a point, but how many players are genuinely having to get a job?
Well, I think most minor leaguers have to get.
That's what I'm saying.
I think
They
most of
already
them
have
have
one,
a
right?
job anyways. So like,
Imagine you're trying to get up to that major league level and, you have your side gig and you have to go up to your boss in the side gig and be like, yeah, remember the summer months that I was off? I'm actually not leaving because people above me who could get paid more than I do already are arguing about getting more money.
yeah, I mean, we kind of had that discussion whenever Max Scherzer, like,
Yeah, we talked
who's
about
got
that.
the highest paid per year in the MLB is
I have an issue with that.
Like-
I mean, not that he makes his money, but that's the guy trying to talk about money. He's the guy that got paid the money. I'm not going to have that conversation again because we had a very in-depth a few weeks ago. But
Yeah. I think it's though a huge PR move though for like companies like Papa John's. Could you imagine all these other companies now like, oh, come on MLB players, come and work for us.
We'll pay you.
Huge old PR thing for them to have their name out there.
Shaq needs to get on that.
Yeah,
Papa John's.
people's gonna be there now because they want to see Jock Pearson making them pizza. Like,
Yeah.
that's smart PR move for
Oh
them
yeah,
too.
I mean, like, obviously especially since they're World Series winners, like everybody remembers the Braves just won the World Series, and they're like, hey,
Yeah.
these guys are
Come
working
right
for
in-
us. Like
literally
we've
right in
got
town.
we've got World Series winning pizza. You know, some slogan, right?
I
Ryan's
hate
shaking
you.
his
I
head.
hate you. I hate it.
But you know, let's move over to like college baseball now, right? We talked about Louisville last week. We're off to the best of starts, you know, but since then
They've turned
they're on
around.
a 6-game winning streak. You know, I mean, they beat TCU last night. They beat Akron, Ohio. They go on no, they're at home actually. Sorry, we're the 3-game series against Michigan.
Is that a big
Be a good
series?
one.
I'm guessing it is.
Yeah,
Michigan's
I mean,
pretty good. Yeah.
Are they? Okay.
Michigan's usually pretty good. So, you know, I think TCU is a really good baseball school. You know, most
They
of
are.
these, like, I would say, like, mid-major basketball and football schools, you know, that are just kind of middle of the pack, usually tend to be pretty good at baseball for some reason. So, like, you know, your middle ground of, like, TCU, Vandy, I would say is kind of lower echelon of, like, football, basketball.
Definitely.
But baseball, I mean, that's where they shine. So, like, you know, Louisville's got a really big series coming up, and then they play Northern and Bellarmine. So they got some in-state schools coming. And I think it'll be really fun to watch these games, especially with the in-state schools, because, like, I mean, maybe not so much for Louisville, but those are bragging rights. Like, if Bellarmine walks into Louisville Stadium and picks up a win, I mean, especially after winning the ASUN tournament in basketball, they're going to be on top of the world. Like, they're going to be like, we now run Louisville.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think those have been some good ones there for them. But I mean, at home though, they're really good. They're 8-1 this year. They've been pretty dominant there. It's just being on the road and neutral sites have been a struggle for them. But yeah, I'm looking forward to ACC play though, and a bunch of good ones. And then also the big rivalry against Kentucky in a couple of weeks. That's going to be huge as well in Lexington.
What does
so
that series usually look like in baseball?
It's just one game.
Oh, really?
Yep, just one game. Since it's non-conference, they just do one game. So it'll be on April 5th in Lexington SC Network. So that'd be a good one.
And, you know, we'll talk about this. It was a big in-state rivalry game last night. Eastern and Western played at Earl Combs Stadium here in Richmond. And Eastern walked out with a dub,
Yeah.
which I think might have shocked a lot of people, you know, because Western's usually pretty good at baseball too. They beat Kentucky not too long ago.
Did. Yep.
So now that Eastern Kentucky game later in the season is going to be looking, you know, as like a marquee game of like who's going to walk out with this win. Because, I mean, Kentucky currently sits, I think they're 11-2.
Yeah.
So they're doing pretty good for themselves. You know, I think Louisville was 9-3, so Kentucky's obviously a little bit better at 11-2. They're 8-2 at home, 3 and away. But I think Kentucky's main thing with the baseball is they've got really good hitting, right? You know, most of these games they're scoring 5 or more runs, right, which is not uncommon in today's baseball world. You know, where a lot of people are hitting a lot more home runs, but a lot of these games they've got 10 or more runs as well.
That's the thing. I mean, they're winning games 14-3, 13-12. Like, it's some of these are high-scoring games. But yeah, they've looked pretty good this year. Got Ohio coming up for Kentucky at home, and then you got High Point, 3 series there, and then ACC play starts up pretty quick for them in March 18th actually. So they got Arkansas and a couple good games there.
It'll be very interesting to watch the SEC. You know how that unfolds because, I mean, usually it's pretty much ran by Florida, South Carolina, Vanderbilt. Ole Miss has got a really good program. I know. Who else is there? Vanderbilt, Arkansas usually has pretty good one. Mississippi State's usually pretty good. The SEC all around baseball is pretty good. I think it's between the SEC and I think the Big 12 is another good baseball conference.
They are. Yep.
Then you got your, you know, every now and then other non-Power 6 school. So it'll just definitely be interesting to see how that shakes out. I think if we're going off history here, it's probably going to come down to like Vanderbilt. But I can see Louisville or Kentucky. If they keep this winning track going, they could easily make it to the College World Series, and obviously we'll be rooting for them because they're an in-state school. Especially Zach being a Louisville fan, I'm a Kentucky fan, so it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I think they should just watch out though, because looks like actually Kentucky plays Louisville twice actually this year. April 5th, and then they play again on April 19th. So that's interesting.
Is it a home and home?
It's a home and away, yeah. But the thing is, the second game on the 19th, they got Vandy right afterwards in a series. So I wonder if that's going to be a sleeper game for them, and maybe Louisville can get an edge on them,
Maybe I could definitely see that because, obviously, we've talked about how good Vandy is. You probably want your ace going that first game against Vandy. So, if his time's up for that Louisville game and you sit him, it's like you're saying, it could be a sleeper game where Louisville's. But do you know who Louisville has after they play Kentucky?
Let's see. We'll have NC State.
NC State's another great baseball school. So I think it'll be one of those games where it's like, both sides know they've got another good opponent right afterwards, right? So they obviously want their ace going. So it'll be interesting to see who they throw. I know that one might be a very like offensive minded game of like who's not got the better pitcher, who's got the better hitters, right? So it'll be interesting to see where that one goes. But yeah, I think if we switch it over to Eastern, they're now 8-5. They had a homestand of 10 straight games at home.
Just wrapped up yesterday, right?
It just wrapped up yesterday against Western. They went 8-2 at home, which is really good for them. Especially considering how last season wasn't the best.
Only losses were to Bowling Green and Dayton, right?
Yeah. They dropped the third game of the series of Bowling Green. Well, actually, no. It was –
or did they sweep Bowling Green?
They swept Bowling Green. They dropped Ohio.
The
third game against Ohio. And then I want to say they lost to Marshall.
I think it was Dayton.
I think they lost to Marshall, wasn't it? Yeah.
I thought it was Marshall.
Let me look. I swore they lost to Dayton. I'm hunting. Fill in the blank. Hurry. Fill in the silence.
I'm fairly confident it was Marshall, but I could be wrong.
I'm looking. No, you're right. It was Marshall.
It was Marshall. But I think they now go on the road to Marshall relatively soon.
Yeah, actually, next game.
Oh, this is next game?
Today. Actually, it's happening in a few hours.
Oh well, all right.
Yeah, Marshall's a good baseball team.
Marshall is a good baseball team.
It's on YouTube for those who want to watch.
What?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
ESPN Plus.
It says Huntington, West Virginia TV YouTube. So
I guess there you go.
Tune into YouTube to watch EKU play Marshall.
What time's the game?
2:00.
2:00.
Oh, and yep, that's the time. So we're finally through this segment.
There you go.
Yeah. I think it went pretty good. We're gonna go around. The Grizzlies are making a push for second in the West. Jaw doing unreal things right now, but silently, my MVP pick, Luka Doncic. Doncic.
Yes,
is moving up in the points per game, and Jaw is being unreal. So I'm liking my pick so far. But what are you two seeing from the NBA?
Yeah, I'm liking Jaw right now. Unbelievable stuff he's been doing. It's just crazy. Highlight reels constantly. Yeah, they're looking good though. What about you, Ryan? What are you looking at?
Well, the Grizzlies actually did take second right now. The Warriors have had a lot of issues recently. We'll start with the West. So, Warriors, Klay Thompson's been unhappy with his role. Draymond's been out. He actually returns Monday. Since, let me look here, February, they've gone 6-8 and dropped to the 3 seed in the West right now. Behind, obviously, as we talked about, Ja and the Grizzlies. They lost 2 straight to Dallas, which before last night they beat the Clippers. But before we get to the Clippers in that kind of game, they lost 2 straight to Dallas, who's making a push. As you talked about, Luka's playing out of his mind. A lot of that has to do with the trade deadline acquisition of Spencer Dinwiddie. This Dallas squad, they are built for Luka to star. They are just built. The way they're
built for him to win MVP.
Honestly, you're not wrong because see, weeks ago I actually said I didn't like it because who's your second best player? Spencer Dinwiddie, right? That guy's coming off the bench for you. So what's he going to do? Well, what he's done is not only play out of his mind, but let me find this right here. The notebook is back. But let me find it. There they are. So this lineup right now, when they're healthy, right? It's Luka, Jalen Brunson, who we all remember him from Villanova in Dallas. He's found a home, found himself a role, a really good 2. Reggie Bullock, who's a good, I wouldn't say a 3-and-D guy, but really a good shooter, a good guy that can kind of fill in. He's a good starter. Dorian Finney-Smith, that's a really good 3-and-D guy playing your 4. And then Dwight Powell, who's just a solid, he's your prototypical center, right? Great guy to have on your roster, good glue guy. Behind them, you've got Spencer Dinwiddie, Josh Green, Davis Bertans, and Maxi Kleber. Now, obviously, they have a lot of issues with shot blocking and rim protection because they don't really have that guy. But this squad is built for a guy like Luka to start. They space the floor out really well. They have their second scorer when they need him. But when are you really needing him? Because Luka can be Luka. The only thing that they need to do is they need to figure out that, because they right now got a solid 9-man rotation. But we're going to talk about the Celtics later. The Celtics are in a very similar boat to where they can't afford injuries, right? But specifically Dallas, because Dallas only has the 1 star. So they can't afford injuries. So in my book, they do have to find that last guy, that 10th man in the rotation. Obviously, it doesn't matter that much, but if there was an injury, he's going to be halted up to 8 or 9. And that's a guy that does play. So on their bench, they have Trey Burke, Frank Ntilikina, and Sterling Brown. One of those 3 can be your guy. Trey Burke went off a few years ago. He played very well, hasn't really played well since, but he's a guy that if you can find in the right rotation, can be that guy. I look for him specifically. Obviously, Frank Ntilikina was a top pick by the Knicks not that long ago. So maybe he could. But yeah, Dallas is making a push for 4. Recently, they actually played Utah and beat Utah, swept them in the regular season series, got a little chippy. Rudy Gobert and Dallas, man. That series, if that holds 4 and 5, it doesn't matter who has home court. That 4 and 5 series between Dallas and Utah is going to be so much fun, specifically with Rudy Gobert.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you got Donovan Mitchell too for the Jazz. Those are 2 really good teams though, right there. And then the Mavs. You're talking about the Warriors have been struggling. The Mavs have beat the Warriors already back-to-back times here. Warriors are struggling. I think they're falling apart a little bit.
My question now, okay, so Dallas swept Utah, who's 4, right? So right now in the standings, Dallas isn't even a full game behind them. They're half a game behind the Jazz. They're only 4 games back of Golden State. So who's to say that with this stretch, if Jason Kidd can keep coaching the way he's been coaching, if they stay healthy, Jalen Brunson right now is on day-to-day. I think he's set to return. Maybe he goes to the bench so Dinwiddie can start. It doesn't really matter, right? Because it doesn't really affect you that much. How far can they climb? Genuinely.
I go pretty far.
I can see something happening if
I don't think anybody's catching Phoenix.
No.
Nobody's catching Phoenix.
Right now.
I mean, even with the Devon Booker, Chris Paul injury, they're 4-3.
Yeah.
They're still 8 games ahead.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they're so far ahead, dude. And they beat the Magic last night to hold on to that 8-game lead. It doesn't really matter. Even if they kind of start dropping some to end out this year, as long as they stay relatively consistent, when Chris Paul comes back for the postseason, he's going to be healthy. He's going to be, you know what I mean? If he's healthy, he's going to be rested. That was the issue last year, was that he ran out of gas. So and he got hurt. What's it going to look like when he's had 20, 30 games to just relax and get healthy, and then he's got the postseason?
Should we put Devin Booker in the MVP
I had him at
category?
5.
Yeah.
I had him at 5 in mine.
I mean,
definitely up there.
DeMar's fallen off, so I guess he goes up.
Cause what I'm saying is Devin is clearly leading this team.
Yeah.
Yes, since Chris Paul got hurt, they may be a little mediocre at a 500 rate, but they're still keeping pretty consistent.
Oh yeah, they don't have to, especially with Golden State falling, because that was the one team that could catch them a month ago. Now that Golden State has had their struggles and they've had issues reintegrating Clay and Draymond's been out, now that he comes back, what do they look like? That's the question. But I don't think anyone does. Unless they have just this huge monumental collapse with injuries, there's no way they lose the 1 seed. And if they stay healthy, there's nothing stopping them really, in my book, from going back to the finals. Genuinely.
Yeah, we have 17 games left. They've got an 8-game lead.
It's either 17 or 20.
7.
Not a lot.
There's not many left.
So I don't think
there's no way.
Surely they don't drop.
I don't think they will.
They're saying all they have to do is stay healthy. Yeah. So moving along, we'll jump over to the East. I said it last week, man. Philadelphia and Milwaukee, they're climbing. Right now in the East, Miami hangs on to that 1. Philadelphia jumps up to 2, and Milwaukee up to 3. Bulls are falling, man. They've lost 5
going on?
straight, including games against Memphis, Miami, Atlanta, Milwaukee, and Philly. With Atlanta being a play-in team, being the worst of the losses. Chicago, they got to start panicking a little bit. Because they have to correct the ship. You said 17 games left. This is the worst time to have your worst basketball. Leading into the playoffs, you're still trying to hold on to that home court advantage for a young team. I will say their defense is atrocious. Okay, their offense is fine. DeMar, Vooch, and Zach LaVine are still good. But when your 3 best defenders, your point of attack defense in Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, both have been out. Alex Caruso has been out since the Grayson Allen injury. If you saw that, Caruso went up for a layup and Grayson Allen yanked him down, and he's not been healthy since. And then Patrick Williams, their forward, he's been out. He's supposed to be their guy that kind of if we play a Kawhi, if we play a LeBron, that type of guy. Obviously, Kawhi's hurt, and LeBron's probably not even making the playoffs. But if we're playing guys like that, i.e. Kevin Durant, Pat Will was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to halt them, stop them, whatever, and he's been hurt. So the Bulls fall to 4. The Celtics, I said we talked about it earlier. Boston has been on fire since the trade deadline. They traded away Dennis Schroeder. They get Derek White back. They trade a host of players to get Daniel Tice. Obviously, I think Schroeder's in Houston, so Schroeder was for Tice, but the point still stands. Derek White and Tice have been playing in that lineup coming off the bench. Tice hasn't really been playing all that much. Right now, I think it's at an 8 or a 9-man rotation. I have it right here, too. But what's interesting for the Celtics, defensively, they're one of the top 2 in defensive efficiency behind or either in front of or behind. They're trading with Golden State right now, right? So Coach Udoka has got them playing the way they want to play, right? Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are actually playing together. Fun fact about this. Listen to this. There have been 9 45-plus games this season, 9 or 10. The Celtics have 3 of them.
Dang.
2 by Jason Tatum and 1 by Jaylen. These guys are learning how to play together. Defensively, they're tough. As we just said, offensively, they can score. And now they're actually moving the ball, which is terrifying. Because right now you got Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and Robert Williams III. That's your starting 5, right? And the 3 coming off the bench are you got White, Williams. I can't think of his first name. It might be Greg Williams. No, what's his name? Crap, I'm blanking here. I gotta look at
On the Celtics?
Grant Williams. There we go. Played at Tennessee. I know who I'm talking about.
Oh,
I
yeah.
promise. Grant Williams is the guy coming off the bench, and Daniel Tice is kind of a tweener, right? So they have 7 or 8 guys, and that's a good lineup, but it's not enough. Like we were talking about Dallas earlier. One guy gets hurt. Obviously, Boston's in a better position because if either or of Jason or Jaylen goes down, they still have that 1 star. But they're not built like Dallas to where they're deep. Dallas has that 8-9 man and they're looking for 10. Right now, Boston's looking for the 8th man. You know what I mean? Like, they barely have an 8th man. They need to find a couple more positions or a couple more people to fill in that bench. Daniel Tice, once he starts getting around, he's a great guy to fill in. He obviously, the Celtics traded for him for a reason, immediately starts making an impact in the limited minutes he has been. He's a guy that's, once he gets in, that's your 8. I'm looking at Nick Stauskas, who they just signed. Played out of his mind, scored 50, 40-plus in like 3 straight games in the G League. Gets signed to a multi-year deal instantly. That's a guy. Aaron Naismith from Vanderbilt is another guy that they have on their roster. He's taller. He can play that 3, that stereotypical 3. If he wants, he's a good 3-and-D guy. Another guy that they have, Pritchard from Oregon, the point guard. Do you remember him?
I don't.
He was the flopper.
The flopper, was that
That guy,
him?
he's still there. He's in Boston.
The flopper?
Right now. Yes, he's in Boston. And he's a guy that I feel he's another shooter that if they can get him some sort of anything in that lineup, that's 9, 10 people. Now, granted, you're not going to have that star power if someone gets hurt, but at least you have a bench that can play somewhat, right? So once they figure that out, Boston genuinely can make an argument for the top 4. Maybe with 3 if Miami can't get healthy.
Yeah, they're looking good. I mean, Celtics are only a half game back from the Bulls. 3-game winning streak, 8-2 in the last 10 games.
Yeah.
They're on the rise.
They're playing out
Bulls
of their
better watch
mind.
out.
That's
Yep.
Right now in the standings, like I said, Chicago 4, Boston 5. The Celtics are a half game back of the Bulls, and the Chicago schedule is one of the toughest remaining in the league. If they don't get healthy and if they don't turn it around and find a way to win, the Bulls are going to find themselves on the wrong end of one of the toughest series in the playoffs, regardless of conference, against the Celtics. Looking down, the Cavaliers just kind of weighing. They're still at 6.
I want to bring this up. The Cavaliers, All right, they sit 6th currently in the East.
Mm-hmm.
They have the leading front runner right now for Rookie of the Year in Evan Mobley.
Evan Mobley,
Oh yeah.
the big
Okay.
man from USC.
So I kind of want to just briefly switch over to, do you think he's Rookie of the Year, or do you think Scotty Barnes takes it?
I would go Scott Barnes.
You think
Yeah.
Scott Barnes?
Cade Cunningham. So for me, I actually have Evan Mobley 3rd. Like I love Mobley, but he's a guy. Before we continue, how much time we got? What's on the clock? Okay,
We got about
4 minutes. Okay, yeah, 3.5. I always forget to set the timer. Anyway, Cade Cunningham to kind of end this year has been playing out of his mind, so he jumps up to 2. But Scott Barnes, anytime that the Raptors have either needed a win or Pascal's not been playing well or Fred VanVleet's been injured, Scott Barnes has led them. He's led them to victories. So in my mind, like just looking at it, Evan Mobley's a guy that he's probably the most well-rounded and complete because he's a guy that like they plugged into the starting lineup instantly in Bickerstaff's or JD Bickerstaff, whatever his name is. I know who I'm talking about. The coach in Cleveland throwed it into his big system. They play very large. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Lauri Markkanen, Kevin Love, all that. They have a very big lineup. Mobley's been a guy that he's played like a seasoned vet. He doesn't really do things that show up on the stat sheet, but he's a guy that like obviously I understand why he's number 1 in the rookie, right? But for me, I feel like the Rookie of the Year has to go to the guy that has the biggest impact on their team. Detroit sucks.
yes,
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like just fairly put.
18 and 47.
Cade Cunningham, that's what I'm saying. Cade can play as good as he's going to get, and Detroit's not going anywhere. Scott Barnes has played very well played better than Cade for a longer amount of time, and he's on a team that's going to make the playoffs. That is arguably the most dangerous of the lower seeds. That's going to come out of the play-in if they don't catch the Cavs, who right now Toronto's 4 games back of Cleveland. If they don't catch the Cavs and they go to the play-in, I would argue, even with the Nets, I think Toronto is the most dangerous of the play-in in the East. Because the East play-in is ridiculous. It's the toughest in either conference.
I think the reason I saw, well, specifically for Evan Mobley to be over Barnes right now, is that when the Cavs and the Raptors last played, the Cavs walked out with the win. Which I know, it's yes, like they won, but like
the Cavs.
what I want to know is
more healthy.
did Mobley
They
do
have
better
been,
than Barnes? Is all I need to know.
Even then, I still don't think that should predicate what people think. You know what I mean? Like, let me look this up. Cavs v Raptors. So yeah, the Cavs won 104-96 on
Barnes
Sunday.
had 19 points and Mobley had 20.
So yeah, you're splitting hairs at that
Yeah.
point. Like I genuinely believe like at that point like it's very close. I threw Cade above Evan just because Cade's been playing so well, but honestly that might be a mistake. I might move it back to Evan being 2 and Scott Barnes and Mobley just because they're so close. But like I said, Mobley's surrounded by a lot of good talent. Like that bench is really deep, and they've not really had to rely on him per se for injury to lead that team, as the Raptors have had to because of injury, because of rotation problems and depth issues. So for me, it's Scott Barnes, and I don't think it's like I don't think there's an argument but obviously that's just my opinion. Like I understand the Evan Mobley, but in my mind, it's Scott.
To round out the top 5, it was Franz Wagner from the Magic and Ryan, you'll be happy about this. Ayo Dosunmu?
Yeah, Dosunmu.
Dosunmu? How you say it?
He's tough. Dosunmu.
Dosunmu?
I'm probably mispronouncing it too, but that's okay.
Whatever.
He's tough, man. A late round steal out of Illinois. Illinois born and raised back in Chicago. The guy, so he was a guy that when he's been starting in Lonzo Ball's place and he's been playing out of his mind. Defensively, he is tough, and offensively, he's finding his way. So yeah, I knew he wasn't going to win, but I'm happy to see him on the list.
Good.
Where we at, Gage? We're done? All right, well, thank you guys for watching. Derek?
Yes, next week we're on spring break. Obviously, we've got Selection Sunday this upcoming Sunday. So next week we're going to do a remote. We're going to build a bracket, go over what we think will happen in the big dance, and we'll get that out to you all sometime next week.
Yeah,
So-
next Wednesday. It's going to be exciting for all those that love March Madness.
Yep, big time.
The Subs in 15 prediction special.
There you go. Stay tuned. Yep.
Thank you, guys.